Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to Jim and Rob Over-Analyze Movies, the live video podcast for people who love to go beyond the review, to dig into the craft, the story, and the films we choose to watch every week. And speaking of films, of course, this week we chose to take a look at RRR. We're returning to Telugu cinema with SS Rajamouli's latest blockbuster epic. He, of course, was the writer and director behind Bahubali, both 1 and 2. And we had a fantastic time with him. And we'll see what we thought of this one. Here's the log line. A fictitious story about two legendary revolutionaries and their journey away from home before they started fighting for their country in the 1920s. And that's exactly it. It's set in the British Raj period in India, and the two individuals played by Raj and Beam, or Ram and Beam, are actually played by, are based on actual historical figures in British Raj and British Raj and Independence, India. And Jim will tell us a bit more about that later. Anyway, again, written and directed by SS Rajamouli, based on a story by his regular collaborator, Vijayendra Prasad. It stars N.T. Rama Rao Jr. and Ram Charan. It also stars Ajay Devgn, Alia Bhatt, Shriya Saran, I'm going to mispronounce this, but give me 1 second. Samuthirakani, Ray Stevenson, Alison Doody, a former Bond girl, and Olivia Morris. Let's get into social nutrition checklist. Yeah, it's got a 25%. Would not have earned a reframe stamp. You know what? I know it says Union Made. Why? I got Jurassic Park still up there. Huh. That's weird. Okay, I am really sorry about that, folks. It should show something different. But anyway, reframe stamp, no. Union Made, don't know, so we can't give it that point. I would say there is a brief scene. You could say it passed the Bechdel test, barely. And last but certainly not least, I would argue this is not a class-conscious film, notwithstanding the fact that it is based in a lot of what was going on, or set, let's say, using historical figures set within a time that's not that long ago, 100 years ago. But yeah, I wouldn't call it a class-conscious film. And with that out of the way, I guess it's time to let's bring back our whoopsie. Because I really got to stop doing that. Mr. Chiboyko, how you doing, my friend? Say that again. Sorry, I didn't hear you.
Sorry, I'm just in the middle of a dance-off, so I might be out of breath.
Good one. Well, if you've caught your breath, everything good with you and yours?
Mm-hmm.
Excellent.
Yeah, nice, slowly making our way towards summer, but it's getting there slowly, but otherwise, end of a nice weekend.
Well, listen, we got somebody in the chat already. Let's say a quick hi to him before we move forward.
Nice.
It's Jelly Duck 100, Ahmed, our man in Kuwait. Great to see you. Good to see you, Jelly Duck. Thanks for popping in. Let's get into it. Before we get into our impressions of the movie, as I said before, it is based on, or not based, based is just the wrong word, and maybe we'll discuss that further later, but it is using two actual historical figures as fictional characters in this film, loosely tied to their actual real-life exploits. What can you tell us about them?
So, one, the character named Raju, who's the one with how to describe them. He's the British officer.
The cop.
The cop, yeah. He is based on Rama from Ramayana. It's the quote here that I have here from Wikipedia says, shares the qualities of supple and skilled Rama of Ramayana. And the other one, Komaram Bhim, is similar to Bhima from the Mahabharata, which is another one of their old tales. Apparently, he's also
wait.
partially.
But they're both. I'm talking about the actual historical figures.
Well, that's what they're based on. Apparently, he was also modeled after Hanuman, the who's a companion of Rama's as well.
No, not the mythic. Like I'm talking about, like Komaram Bhim was a guy, died in 1940.
Okay.
Yeah, from Hyderabad, was from the Gond tribes. Helps was part like one of the leaders led a protracted low intensity rebellion against the feudal nizams of Hyderabad and the British Raj. And same with Raj. Like I understand he's applied. Okay, you know what? We're getting way off topic. We're going to ditch this. Let's just move on. Okay. Yeah, needless to say, folks, though, what's important here is these two guys actually lived. And look, I'll put a link to the actual two men because they were alive, not 80 years ago. Okay. All right. Jim, what's your first impression of the film?
Yeah, it's like Bahubali, it's almost not ratcheted up a notch. I think this one it felt different to me. It felt a little bit lighter on its feet, it was I was guffawing out loud, and I made my wife watch a couple of the scenes afterwards because this is so crazy. So that's sort of what. Trying to talk her into watching the full 3 hours, but
yeah. No, myself, I did. Yeah, at times it was laugh out loud. It's so over the top, so extreme. Like it's almost like some may think that going back to Bahubali might be going, well, this is kind of low key. Of course not. So yeah, I enjoy myself? Absolutely. But I also had some problems with it. And when we're in the spoiler zone, wouldn't mind hearing your take on why you think this was so popular. It is, for a while there, it was the most popular Indian film, like within the country ever, until another more recent film overtook it. But I did enjoy it. At times it was funny. Sometimes it's like, wow, that exceeded my expectations. A couple of shots and a couple of scenes. At the same time, it also, like, I got to admit, I'm kind of bothered by it as well. It's a part of me is wondering, as the whole world seems to be shifting right politically and culturally, that there's also this, and I think it's reactionary, but also the same obsession with masculinity, and that's what that's what the world needs, more testosterone. It's like, really, you 100% sure about that? Because I'm looking around. Anyway, we'll get into that more. Well, you know what? We'll get into that pretty much right now. Let's get into it. Let's get into the spoiler zone, my friend.
Spoiler zone.
And with the craft, you know what, Jim, I want to kind of start in a different tack with you. Sure. What did you think of the scoring here? I mean, a few of these things we've seen have been either very poppy, and I'm talking about Indian films. Yeah. Those Three Idiots had a lot of pop going on, Indian pop, but pop. It had a pop feel and a comic feel. Oh, excuse me. I'm not saying Bahubali was, you know, old school, but it seemed, a little grander. I don't want to say
Yeah,
grandiose. It and a little more mythic. Here,
yeah,
it's almost like they were trying to do two things, but I don't know.
yeah.
Maybe that's me. What did you think of the
Like
score?
Bahubali was perhaps a little more restrained or more not stuck, but assigned itself a particular kind of score, perhaps.
Mm,
This one. I mean, I've noticed this a lot of times that movies have been all over the map in terms of their score. The one dance off scene that I referred to earlier that had a very light feel. Like it was a confrontation scene and
yeah,
it was a dance off, but it had a lighter kind of. Almost a silly feel, like a break in the action, perhaps. Uh, of course, being full of action anyway, but
yeah,
dance action, I guess. But yeah, that's a good point. It was sort of trying to do a lot. The music does a lot of heavy lifting in these movies. There's not there's not a I don't think there's a moment of silence. I might be wrong, but yeah, it's sort of like being at a hockey game. Whenever there's a stop in action, blare the music, I felt that way a little bit about this too. I sort of had to. I was watching when people were sleeping. I had to turn it down at several points, but yeah, no, I get your point there. It starts off too with that really. It's almost like I don't know, rap, but it was that. I don't want to mimic it, but it's that digga 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 digga, like literally that fast. And they brought that up later in the movie.
hmm
But there's a certain kind of I guess, a theme there, and that was kind of, I thought, whoa, this is frenetic. Like this is getting you going already. So
yeah,
that's what they played over the opening titles
yeah.
anyway.
Which kind of tied in a few times, and then at the end of the film, that whole beating on the ground as they're trying to, it's like Marco Polo,
Yeah, yeah.
trying. Okay, well, what about? We'll get into the supporting cast in a sec, but at least our two stars, and it really is about these two guys. What
Mhm.
what were you thinking about their performances?
Yeah. I mean, I thought it was I thought they were both quite watchable. Number one, uh, Chandra, I believe is his name, who played Raju. I thought, holy
Yeah.
cow, this guy's good looking. He's like Ryan Reynolds good looking almost. But and the other guy's a little bit more of a bear, a little bit more of a like Mike, like somebody guy walking around the streets of Winnipeg. But in terms of, I think
Well, until he
they played
takes
it
off
well.
he's got the hairy chest. He's definitely
Yeah,
the tribal guy.
yeah,
I
yeah.
was actually thinking Gilgamesh's
Yeah, yeah.
buddy, because every
I
tradition has that legend, right? But anyway,
and he
continue.
Yeah, well, he sort of has the curly hair too, and even in his
Yeah,
Wikipedia bio, it says at some point in 2017 he tried a new look and straightened his hair. So I think there's again, with something that we're watching from another culture, there's probably layers of stuff that we're maybe not super aware of, just being Canadian.
yeah,
But anyway, I thought they were both super watchable. They had a bit of a Sam and Frodo friendship thing. Those friendship montages, or they're laughing and one's riding the motorcycle and the other's riding the horse, and not the bridge scene, but the just that more of the montage stuff. And yeah, I thought they were. I mean, I thought they conveyed what they needed to convey. A little bit of I found the sort of the acting style, and this is not a disparagement, but almost
yeah.
sort of silent movie, like lot on the eyes, and also a little bit sort of, what else did I write down here? A little bit telenovela kind of, but I think they pulled it off, and they were believable. They were sort of easy to root for. Even when it got ridiculous, like when Raju started drumming at the dance off, like they had that tray that went around. He kicked it up, and then he started drumming himself to start the Desi Nach dance
Yeah,
there. But yeah.
yeah.
But
What?
yeah, how about you? Did you find them sort of sympathetic? Could you
Oh,
did you believe their
yeah.
performances and
Well,
stuff?
let's say Just and it's actually this goes to we've got and I hope I'm pronouncing this correctly, Sahithi in our chat, who asks, "High testosterone, okay, but is it toxic masculinity?" I absolutely, I think it is, but I'll save that comment for when we get into story. As far as the craft though goes, and as far as their performances go, yeah, they, obviously masters of this style of storytelling and the performance that is required. Super physical. You gotta have, you have to have some rhythm, right? You gotta dance. You gotta be able to do these things. And and they had it. They can also play that. And when I say over the top, you know what? It's a style of performance that fits what is basically, maybe this is when you look at some of these films, it's a musical. They don't break out into song often, but they do break out into song. Song is so important. I think just like a musical, big Broadway, whether it's a big Broadway thing or the Sound of Music, everyone is just more, more bigger, more physical, but even when it's up close and you're hoping for a net, not what they do. Not, and yeah, I think that style of storytelling requires some to be able to do that, and that they deliver. Like and so, yeah, and again, we said this time and time, it is nice to see actors you're not familiar with, because you're not, I mean, we are going to see Top Gun for next week's show, and I'm expecting certain things. Although at times I did think it's like, wow, they went to the Tom Cruise School of Running.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. No, good point.
But other than that, right? Like I'll be seeing things in Tom Cruise's performance and I'll be, know that. These guys, I don't. So it makes it even more enjoyable for me. What about the supporting cast? And maybe we'll dip into first Ray Stevenson as, whoa, you're nasty. Like you've never played that role in your life. But and Doody and who's it? Olivia Morris? Yeah. As the love interest, I guess.
Well, first of all, with Alison Doody, I was surprised. First there's the surprise that holy cow! I mean, she was Raiders of the Lost Ark, wasn't she? She was
she
third
was
one, and Bond girls. You're saying? I'm less familiar with Bond girls, but
she was a Bond girl.
Yeah. But Ray Stevenson, I know, is one of Thor's entourage there for a couple movies.
Yeah.
But I'm familiar with some of the things that he's done. Who I was really impressed by was the Olivia Morris. She, more than any other sort of female character, she's sort of given the most to do.
Yeah.
And she's just seems to be having the time of her life. She was believable to me. I didn't think that her and Beam had tons of chemistry. That's about the only thing. But she was in there for the dance numbers. She was up for anything, and she was sort of every time she was the one kind English person. And and every time you saw her, it was a little bit of hope. And when they showed her face, she was that nice sort of a sweet, clean, positive, fresh presence that the film needed. Yeah. How about you?
I did think they were enjoying themselves as they dug into, and I was the only one it's a tough one, right? Given the nature of the film, it's like, that's what we're going to have. The one thing I would say for anyone who thinks, well, that's a little cartoonish, just read a little of what the British did in India, or what the Belgians did in the Congo, or And you know what? The stories will come out eventually, but there is blood on our hands, and we don't even have to go to residential school. We can just go to Afghanistan, go to Somalia, and then go to a residential school. Like, I mean, we're no saints.
Yeah.
And so anyone who thinks they're cartoonishly villainous, yeah, they're fit. All the stuff the British were doing was appropriate for the kind of movie they're making. But yeah, you do a little research, you go, wow, these guys actually look good compared to those assholes.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know.
I mean, they were that sort of dastardly cartoon villain almost, and I don't know that they're
But
given
I
enough
think
to do
that's
than look
yeah.
evil, but you know,
Well, and I
it's
wanted to
what
kind of
was
get into
required.
that on the story side.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, you're right. Like but I do like, let's say Ray Stevenson and definitely Ann Doody. Like, I mean, she didn't get, the only thing she didn't get was a mustache to twirl. You know,
Yeah.
Yeah, buy this child for me. I want it on
Yeah.
my
Yeah.
mantelpiece. It's like, what are they going to cut the kid's head off? Uh, so I was fine. Then there was the other, and this I think I do want to. Well, you know what? I'll hold that comment.
Sure.
The other supporting players, you know, especially, you know, whether it be the folks back in the village for Beam, or, you know, Sita, played by, I believe it's Ms. Bhatt. Yeah, the Alia Bhatt. These folks, you know what? They were fine. I think though, when we compare it to other films that we've seen, did they get as much to do as they could have, as other
Yes.
films gave them to do? And that's I think that's a worthy question. But otherwise, yeah, no, everyone was fine. What about it's it's like, holy crap, like the stunt work, the shots, the stunt shots, the triangle of jungle beasts. Literally punching a tiger with a fist of iron and fire.
My favorite was if you're having trouble with somebody, just throw a jaguar at them. It's like, "Oh!" That's my go-to.
Let's say a quick hello to Jock here, who is here from Australia in the chat. How you doing, Jock here? And I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. DJOCKHEARE. I don't know how else I could say it.
Yeah.
The what and this goes for the folks in the chat too, of course. What did you think of the whole production design? You know, it seemed to have a couple of things going on there. Like one, you see it in the poster, like in the poster I used as the thumbnail. But there was a, you know, water cool kind of thing going on in the design, and then a fire, warmer colors, fire going on. And then the British were the British. What did you think of it all?
You know, it was quite. I think that the towns looked real and felt real. I know some of it was shot. Some of it was shot in. There was something shot in Ukraine, something in Bulgaria, but mostly India. But I know some of it was shot at like a film set, you know, like a Hollywood city kind of thing. But it felt to me like they were filming it in real places. Like there was a real sort of a permanence to the buildings and things like that. And even if there were drone, computer-aided drone shots or something, there was one fly back from just prior to the bridge rescue of the child in the water and the train that caught on fire. But it sort of it showed the waterfront, and it showed the pyramids of people, and then the sort of the drone shot back, and it showed everything, like sort of like a section of valley and the bridge and the people and birds on the river, and you know, like the attention to detail was, I mean, it seemed realistic. At no point did I say, "Ugh, CGI." A couple times, if there's
Yeah.
animals and stuff like that, you can probably figure out that it's CGI.
Yeah.
But not enough to take you out of the story, and it certainly gave it a sense of scale. And apparently, there were scenes with at least 1,000 people in them at times, and so I thought that was really. That whole bridge, the village by the riverside, I thought that was sort of a good indicator of the scale of this. And the scale felt earned and real. Like it felt like a real sort of a spectacle. And there's some night shots that I thought worked really well, like the city at night, and it had sort of a more of a yellow glow, like sort of a creamier color to it. And that was yeah. I just thought it looked great. They had a couple scenes where they had these gigantic doors. Those felt like real ancient sort of gigantic doors that they sort of had to strain to open. And I bought into it. Yeah.
Yeah.
How about you?
I agree with you. It Bahubali, I think, and it's perhaps unfair. You and I have a limited experience with Indian cinema, but you know what? But I'm going to compare it to Bahubali anyway. This never felt like it's CGI because you just that's not realistic.
Yeah.
Stopping a speeding motorcycle like it's a soccer ball, booting it in the air.
Yeah.
Not realistic.
That's pretty strong.
That's,
I don't know. He's kind of strong to me.
Swinging
Rob.
it around but even then, like, it never, like you said, it was so good, it never took me out of the movie. Even it was at times, it's like, wow, that's a lot of wire work. Like,
even wire, yeah.
Yeah. Remember, well, but then I was like, maybe it isn't wire work. It's hard to, like, some of these moves, it's hard to tell. And I think that's super exciting, that it felt, and I'm watching it because I'm thinking of the show I'm going to do right after. So I'm already a little bit removed out of the movie, and I'm amazed by it, not kind of, well, that's not what we're used to here in Capital City. So yeah, I was super impressed with it. I did think though, Jim, especially a lot of the use of color and everything, some of it I think we can analyze. There's universals going on, right? There's always that country cousin, the city cousin, the guy who's destined to be an emperor, of course, the city guy, and then the country bumpkin who still can provide the physical oomph to, help. He gets to ride the motorcycle. The other guy. It's interesting though, like some of the imagery. I back to that. I'm like, we need like a cultural expert to kind of guide us through some of the symbolism here, because it's like there's more being communicated here than I know, and I suspect you as well. But otherwise, as far as the craft goes, I mean, we could spend the whole hour just talking about its look and feel. But yeah, we don't have an hour, so I'm going to move us on.
Certainly, yeah. Enough to say that it's pretty impressive.
Very, very, very very attractive movie. And Bahubali was both of them, 1 and 2, were both very attractive movies. I don't want to make sure no one thinks it's like, oh, well, they've seen 4 Indian films and now they're experts, and India has made progress. No, that is not what that's not what we're doing here. Okay, let me, now that we're getting into the story.
Sure.
One question I was just dying to ask you that doesn't really have much to do with big themes or anything, but were you like me? I could have sworn the mother died at the beginning, because it's like, she's just kind of dead there, dead eyes,
with the coins
open
in her hand, and this
like
is the price that they paid. A big focus on the coins, like all this for whatever rupees or what have you, and yeah, that's and
So
then
that
she.
you thought that too,
Oh yeah,
that she's
100%.
alive
Yeah,
at the end. It's like,
yeah,
wait a second, this doesn't make any sense at all.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, that was they could have made that clearer,
Mm.
but it certainly and it was a hit.
I
Slow
wonder if that was
motion
a change
surprise.
later.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
You know
That
what? That they're like, want to
stick
deliver the
coming in.
kid, don't
Yeah,
want to tell the kid that the mother's dead.
I mean, it was a headshot with a lot of blood and it's slow motion, and the wood that hit her head just sort of disintegrated. I think without the slow
And
motion, this movie
again,
would
the
be
dead
20
eyes.
minutes long. Yeah, it'd be substantially shorter. But
Yeah.
there's even a shot of Raju thinking, and it's in slow mo. He kind of turns his head, and it's in slow motion.
Yeah.
But yeah, what the hell? Go with it.
But you know what? Yeah, again, it works for this style of filmmaking, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Back to the story for a sec. Was there any? Okay, first of all, what would you say are some of the key scenes?
Well, just from the spectacle perspective, there's several set pieces, key scenes. I think looking back, when you figure out that Raju's deep cover, that sort of unreal scene where he launches himself out into the riot and takes care of, isn't
What a great way to
captured.
start a film, though.
Yeah, holy cow! And you're like, is this guy supposed to be good, or is he's beating his own people? But the in retrospect, you think back and you think, oh, the horrible things, and that's what the father said. No obstacles. The
Yeah.
horrible things that he had to do in order to maintain his deep cover.
Yeah.
Was kind of, so that was sort of a retroactive, like, holy crap, he actually did that, and he was willing to turn in beam to some point. So that's
Yeah.
That was sort of one of them.
Just turn him in, flog him.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And then chronologically, yeah, that flogging scene where Beam doesn't capitulate and
Yeah.
go onto his knees and sings a song and holds back, and
Yeah.
that I think was very important. How about you?
Well,
Was there anything
I
in the
would think
middle, maybe a sneak?
No, I think the big scene for me, where everything sort of really kind of turns in the other direction, is the flogging scene. Of
Oh, yes.
course, and Doody's Buxton, and the governor in those ridiculous robes, but and Doody's what is Constance or whatever the hell her name is.
Yeah.
She goes full Snidely Whiplash.
Yeah.
Here, use this whip. But that is also the moment I thought where it's like, this is the... It's where because we now know he's got he's playing a longer game. Raju. Raj has got a longer game. He's not here. He's not enjoying any of this, but he's got a mission, and he's promised his father, his dying father, who he killed. Again, no obstacle is too great to not fulfill your promise. But
true,
that's the moment, though, also where at least there's some questioning. It's where it's like, oh, hey, and again, now I'm using my own eyes, given what's happened, twice since Uvalde. But it's like, oh, maybe this is a moment where the character's going, it isn't the guns that's needed. You need something else. You need a trigger that's not necessarily troops. So I thought that was interesting, and they did explore that a bit. They, kind of went back to the original mission, but at least it was explored. And there is that moment, and this is done a lot. And I thought, again, given the context, yeah, it's a character who has to kind of go, but wait a second, I'm not paying the price. I'm making others pay the price. That Beam is paying the price for my goals. and my promise.
Yeah.
Does this make sense? Is this right anymore? You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
and that a lot of that gets revealed through letters to his his fiance
CP.
and first cousin.
Yeah. Yeah.
Apply some North American
You know,
attitudes on this stuff. But yeah, I thought that. But I think that'll probably be that, and that establishing scene. Actually, they both get, and it very fitting of their characters. Raj, he's a man of will and of planning and of cunning, and yeah, obvious education and the best hair in the whole film.
Yeah.
Once again, an Indian film makes me mad of my bald head.
I
But
hear that.
so that establishing scene, Beam gets another one that fits him. It's in the shade. It's with animals. He's in a loincloth. He's very hairy. Hirsute.
The trap.
It's all very animalistic and, tribal, which, yeah, it's, again, we don't know the Indian context, so it's got to tread carefully here. It's a little hard on the North American ears. But so you see those two big establishing sequences that are so gloriously ridiculous. It's kind of awesome, even though it's also really, this is where it's like, wow, does India have a problem with masculinity? Like, this is intense. This makes some of the films we've watched this year look light in comparison. But it was still fun. And maybe it's because they're so 11, I don't know. That would be my take on it. Did you find, other than the couple of nitpicks we've talked about so far, any plot holes from your perspective?
Plot holes, not as such. I mean, you mentioned it earlier. The main thing for me is the women. I would have liked to have seen more of Raju's mum in particular, who's played by an actress named Shriya, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, Saran.
Yeah.
I thought she had a presence. Like these actresses that they have are no slouches. They're as far as I can tell, big actresses or popular actresses over there. And so it would have been nice to have seen a little more of her.
I all I can think of is the mother in
Bahubali.
Remember Bahubali 2? And she's like, she was already, okay, you're getting an idea. This is a formidable character, but it's in Bahubali 2. This is statecraft. It's like, ugh. It's like, whoa. Like the women in that film, even though we kind of complain that they show us so much and then they kind of pull their punch at the end, they got a lot more to do than the women in this film. They in this film, they were a lot more the loyal woman at home, the loyal helpmate to her husband. There wasn't any warrior, not even a warrior to be tamed or anything. All these women were ideal matches for the man who's the actor, and they are the supportive nurturer. Loyal. Penelope. Actually, that's what I was thinking. Penelope. It is Penelope in the Odyssey, right?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, is it Penelope?
I'll have to think about it, yeah.
Yeah, all right. So, anyway, you know what? There's that scene where the men of the village come up to her and are saying, he's never coming back. He's betrayed you. He's betrayed us all. And all I could think of is the suitors. They weren't suiting. They weren't. Like, it's not a perfect comparison. But all I could think of is the suitors and I think Penelope. Yeah, it's got to be Penelope because Margaret Atwood wrote the Penelope ad as a response to. There we go. Okay. Anyway.
But the Sita character is given more to do in the dance at the end of the film, I think, and shows more character and shows more of her character. There's a couple little cute things that she does, and she goes, "Oh, you're not dancing with me," and they come and join her, and that kind of thing. Like she's given more chance to shine in the last 5 minutes
Well,
than kind of in the rest. But
uh, I'm gonna say by then, when we know everyone's who
yeah,
lived, who
exactly.
died, and how it's all playing out, I'm less impressed.
What did they leave on the cutting room floor? Also, do any of the women get any slow motion treatment? I don't think they get any slow motion cam or anything like that. That might be an indicator of
I think
I could be wrong about that. But.
I want to say, Jim, that I think Sita gets maybe not slow mo, but a lot of camera going around. Think Michael Bay, as the character is, the camera's like this and going around her as you see her pain. Whoops. Terrible mouth noise. As you see her pain and everyone kind of going, "Oh my goodness, we've misunderstood her and how heroic she is." And of course that means her man can only be a man of quality.
Yeah.
Super melodramatic. Like just a totally melodramatic story.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry, you were saying.
I would love to be a fly on the wall at Michael Bay's personal screening theater when he watches this and he destroys the armrests on his chair. Like, all right, this is what I'm.
This almost made my budget.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I mean, it is though. Like, yeah, I don't think there's actually any real weaknesses with this story. It maybe. And this is what I wanted to ask you, actually. Like,
sure.
Maybe its tone isn't quite right. Like they're taking mythic characters and mythic stories and applying it to real people in a time within. Heck, there'll probably be some great grandparent in India who remembers these people. It just wasn't that long ago. A grandfather's grandfather would have been with these guys.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering if the tone of the whole story really, because I think that's the toughest thing I had with the story itself, was at times you are taken out of the film because it's like, yeah, I kind of have an idea of how this actually played out. That said, what I do admire, I'm both whining on one hand and praising on the other. What I do admire is like, okay, this is the way to use a historical character, a historical and perhaps heroic character or person, and turn them into a character, is put them in a truly, this never happened situation, and kind of but like I'm thinking of what Quentin Tarantino did with Inglourious Bastards, or
his one on Hollywood there.
The Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Take real people, but just put them in a totally, change the situation so much that you're not seeing a docudrama.
Yeah.
You don't have to worry about any of that. No, it's all not fake. It's we're going to tell a mythic story. We're just going to use more recent history to give it a bit of verisimilitude. But I think that's a problem, actually. It does. It kind of, I'm not sure that mythic approach works when these people are a Wikipedia search away, or in your case, 2 Wikipedia searches.
There you go. You gave me like 4 minutes to look that up. You
could have said no. Yeah, Rob, I'm not prepared for this. Anyway, sorry, continue.
The
last comment is, because we're going to move into meaning right after this.
Sure, and this may be into meaning as well. I'm not sure, but anyway, our guest earlier talked about the toxic masculinity, which I actually had written down here.
Yeah,
is it toxic?
Well, I think masculinity. Let's put that. Let's jump into meaning then, because that sure. really is that really speaks to some of the themes of the film.
Yeah.
So continue.
Well, it didn't feel as because they let the characters have different, like, they weren't all about anger, and these were, they were your competent, competent, it's kind of super heroic men, but
Oh,
they knew how to, they were fixing cars, and they were making jewelry on the spot, and they were,
competent
and
men.
he was, at one point, Beam, makes a snake antidote for Raju, like, just like, I need this, and this, and then he does it. And, so there's an element of nurturing or caring, or, there. So, but it's such a hyper violent movie. And it's sort of hard to reconcile. These were sort of, as you mentioned earlier, these were men of science. Raju has books, mountains of books piled neatly all over his apartment. Like, he's a man of letters, and yet, there, it does get fairly violent. And when they do finally take out Scott, there's no falling on a sword by accident. They actually, they ready aim shoot, not ready aim fire, but ready aim shoot, and they take care of him. And there's no, like, that was their decision, which I think might have been avoided in if this was a movie from another culture. He would have fallen backward to his death or something to that effect. But
this is the first great definition of the competent man I read was actually from Heinlein, and
Okay.
this is this is from Time Enough for Love. The competent man should be able to change a diaper, plan an invasion, butcher a hog, con a ship, design a building, write a sonnet, balance accounts, build a wall, set a bone, comfort the dying, take orders, give orders, cooperate, act alone, solve equations, analyze a new problem, pitch manure, program a computer, cook a tasty meal, fight efficiently, die gallantly. Specialization is for insects. And I think these two characters embody that.
Yes, yeah.
I would say why it's toxic is, while they embody all those things, they are ubermen. They are supermen. Like, they're jumping up walls. He hasn't eaten in a week, and there he is doing pull-ups, and still able to do pull-ups even though they've broken his legs. Right? Like, they're supermen. They are mythic heroes. But there's but there's still, like, it implies that the solution to political problems, to social problems, are about, oh, that's the bad guy, we just got to beat them into submission. And given the historical context of India's, finally getting rid of the monarchy, it's like, yeah, I don't think that's the way they won.
Oh yeah.
And, so I do think it's toxic. It may be it may be a lighter, or a less ugly version. Like, Nobody, I think, was a terribly ugly version of the competent man. And that said, I think we're kind of, in a way, at least here in let's say the West, North America, still trying to figure out, okay, what is a man supposed to be? And so the Robert Pattinson Batman's one option in that, but they all seem to want to keep certain traits that I'm not sure that are totally celebrated in this film, like, completely, but I am not sure are really good. Like, I do think there's some toxicity here. Not nobody. I'm not judging it as harshly, but I do think I think Sai is right. Although he did retract his comment. Or mind you, I might be screwing up the gender on the Jesus. I could be totally blowing it. So let's just say Sai and leave it at that.
Sai.
They said, but they did retract the comment. So
Yeah. You know, and I think with this one, it feels different than Bahubali, and I couldn't quite put my finger on what it is, having, watched it last year, about a year ago. But,
Mhm.
um, yeah, I did feel a little lighter about that, and I wonder if that making them more sympathetic, like having their sort of Sam and Frodo moments, as they're laughing
I don't
and
know. I
doing their
I
thing.
found them more sympathetic in Bahubali. Like I
Oh, did
found
you? Yeah,
these
yeah.
guys, yeah, and this is what I mean. I'm not sure what Rajamouli was trying to do here. I'm not 100% sure it's 100% effective, because these
Mhm.
two, it's like there was the the actual people it's based on were revolutionaries. Um,
Mhm.
the even the context, it's like kind of, and this is what, when you see something like this, you kind of wonder, is like this the, well, if I it's a Marky Mark moment, Mark Wahlberg going, well, if I was on that plane, let me tell you, it would have been different. It's a modern fantasy of what a real man could have done, would have done,
Mhm.
you know, uh, if they were around then. Even though there
Yeah.
are a couple of real guys that were really around, were revolutionaries. Uh,
Yeah.
the yeah, I think it's so oversimplifying something that's not that long ago.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
just not sure it quite works. Like, again, there's a touch, but what else did you draw from the meaning, other than, yeah, you know what, freedom is good and imperialism is fucking awful.
Yeah.
Anything
The
else you
blood
pulled out of this?
the blood falling on the quote, "The sun never sets on the." That was sort of
Falling,
subtle.
spraying.
Yeah. 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 Spring. The sun never sets on the English Empire.
Yeah.
But there's a lot to do with loyalty, but on several levels.
Yes.
There's the loyalty to family slash village. Loyalty
Country.
to country was a big one. A lot of flags, and the Vande Mataram, I think, was
Which,
the Mataram,
yeah, I
which
praise the
something to
motherland.
the motherland. Yeah, I did look that up
Yeah.
afterwards. They're actually
Yeah, that was
chanting it just
actual a pause
before.
moment. It's like, okay, this is important, obviously.
Probably important. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And I'm
Um,
glad I paused it then, because then I got to enjoy and get the full effect of what is a super hyper patriotic scene.
yes.
Uh, and folks, I'm referring to when they saved the little boy on the bridge with,
Mhm.
here, you grab the flag and I'll do this. And I'm on a horse because that's what nobles do. And, you
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
anyway, sorry, continue.
Well, and then he throws the flag to him, which he wraps him, shrouds himself in to protect him from the fire.
Yeah.
And there's that sort of hold breath moment, and he emerges from it, and the flag has saved him.
And while
And
being
tarnished.
undamaged.
Yeah, not burnt.
It's
That's a good point. Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
But there's
And
loyalty on
held
three levels.
perfectly to furl.
There's
Again,
loyalty on.
it's CGI, but boy, it looked good.
Oh, it did. Yeah.
Yeah.
But there's loyalty on three levels. There's loyalty to your mates, basically, on the very micro level, the the village slash family, and
Yeah.
then the country. I meant to say that. I
Yeah.
was sort of thinking, what's the third stage
Like
I
there's
wrote down? But
tears.
yeah,
Yeah. Tears.
yeah, and it just sort of thoroughly. There's a picture I took in a train station in Delhi, which when I was there in 1994, and it's all we are many people but one country, and it's just sort of a list of sort of different slogans,
Yeah.
conferring that we're all Indians, basically.
Yeah.
And I think it was a hand painted sign too. I couldn't find it before the show, but yeah. So I think that's another major aspect of it as well. And I was kind of shocked to see like references to the English Empire. So by the way, happy 70th, Queen Queen Elizabeth. But that, and it was kind of refreshing to see the English portrayed as almost as like Germans would be portrayed in other films.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No,
Yeah.
no. It rightly so.
Mhm.
It just, yeah, the bad guys. You allow one woman to who almost becomes a prize, which is a classic sexist trope. Um, I get it, you know. What is Beam gonna do otherwise? Just go marry a local girl? He's been to the big city now.
Exactly. He's been to a party.
Yeah. I do. Okay, you know what? I'll mention one thing, and then we got to keep moving. We're coming up on our hour already. I was just thinking of this because you got Beam on the motorcycle, Ram on the horse. Whenever they have a moment, he's on the motorcycle, he's on the horse. And for a second, it's like, he's the guy from the sticks. Why is he, well, first of all, puts him on a lower level than the noble, right? But it also allows it, because he's mechanical. He's good with his hands, you know? Whereas Raj is definitely more the commander type. He can woo a woman. He knows how to, like, he's the sophisticate of the two. And
let's get you dressed for the party.
Sophisticates don't haul around big things of beef for their tigers and whatnot. And anyway, all right, Jim, why don't you tell us about what we're watching next week?
So next week, we're going to do what everyone else has evidently done or is planning to, and we're going to go see Top Gun Maverick in the movie theater.
That's correct.
So that's
sometime this week we're actually going to do
our next movie.
Yeah, we'll go check it out in the theater, do a little parking lot reaction, then the big over-analysis. I'm kind of wondering how often we'll refer to this movie when we're talking about Top Gun, especially another sausage fest, let's say, of a film with a supportive woman. Yes, there is a supportive woman. Although I do believe a couple of the pilots in Top Gun Maverick, it's like, oh yeah, we are in the 21st century. We will have to cast a couple, but getting great reviews. So that's our flick for next week. Very cool. Folks, that is next Sunday at 9:45 p.m. Central Daylight Time. Coordinated Universal Time -5. I forgot we're in daylight time. So, of course, the Coordinated Universal Time, which should just be rock solid. No, not so much. So it's -5. Sunday, what is that day? That's the 5th. So it'd be the 12th. There we go.
Yeah, sorry.
Oh, and there may still to be confirmed, folks. I got someone reached out, and there might be a Jurassic Park ranking. That's tentative, but throw it on your radar. We might be doing that this week too. All right. Haven't even discussed it with Jim though, so there you go, Jim. There's your heads up. All right. Let's get back to this flick, and why don't you let me know? Are we going to give Rajamouli a bass or a fail?
That when I showed Carla 2 scenes, she said it certainly is joyful, and I think there's a real joy here, a joy of cinema and a joy of movie making, which I think totally comes through. So it's got the spectacle, it's got the joy, despite the, what could be heavy subject matter. And also a torture scene that I neglected to mention, that Raju was torturing a poor guy for information. But I'd say pass. It moved like a rocket. It was enjoyable. We have some reservations, but otherwise it was a great movie to watch, and I'd say fun. It's fun in a lot of ways. I mean, again, there's a lot of violence, but there's a lot of joy here as well. How about you?
I agree with you. Yeah, and that's a great point Carla made. I agree with that 100%. Yeah, there is a love of the film, a love of the process. I will say I don't. Actually, I'm going to save that for my final. You know what? Yeah, I'm definitely giving him a pass. And to move out of there and quickly into final thoughts, I will continue with what I was saying.
Sure.
What you said, Carla said, yeah, you're right. There's a joy in it. That said, I don't think this is as good as Bahubali. Yeah, I think there's something else going on there. Now I want to rewatch them so I can compare. That said, I think this. That said, you know what? There's some standout scenes in this that I don't think Bahubali could top, including. Again, there's a triangle of animals.
The animal attack. The poorly thought out animal attack.
It's too bad Shashank isn't here. Maybe he'd be able to tell us, like, yeah, you know what? Some of these are probably universals, but I would still like to know some of the themes we might be missing, the cultural cues, especially with water and fire. Some of the color schemes. I would love to know more about that. But otherwise, there was some awesome bits in here. But yeah, I think as far as emotional, maybe this is it. For emotional impact, not feeling it as much as I did with Bahubali. I felt the way that was resolved is better than this. This was a kind of and we're done now.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, you know what, Jim? I think that's it. Yeah, I was not as emotionally impacted as I was with Bahubali. As melodramatic as the film is, and it's melodramatic.
Yeah. No, I get it.
Well. You got anything to add before we let our wonderful audience go?
It's. This was sort of signal boosted by Twitter, and then I said, hey, we should like.
Oh, and I'm glad we did.
Check this out, yeah, and so I fear that if this is the first Indian film that anybody watches, it's gonna change. It's gonna make them think that all Indian movies must be like this. But if it gets you watching other things and films from other cultures, that's a good thing. The other thing I thought, one of the thoughts that I had while watching this is, imagine if this guy did the story of Louis Riel. Dance scenes. There's this one mysterious day he hung out with Ulysses S. Grant. That could be a dance scene. There's visions from God. The whole bit. But they would probably Canadians would make a fairly boring version, I think. But
well, I don't know.
Let a guy dream.
What Barnaby? What the heck is his last name? Blood Quantum. The Young Ghouls flick that we've got to put on our list.
I'll look it up. Go ahead, I'll look it up.
Yeah, I would be interested to see his version of a Louis Riel story. I don't know, it might involve like witchcraft or something. I don't know. Zombies.
Yeah, Jeff Barnaby.
Thank you very much. I would be interested in seeing if he was in any way interested, what he would do with that. Could be really cool.
Yeah.
And as a matter of fact, there's a couple of Canadian Indigenous films, First Nations that happen to be in Canada, that are easily available now on Netflix or a couple other streaming services. We got to put them on our list and investigate them this summer. I think that'd be really cool. All right. I think that's about it, everybody. Want to, first of all, let's just say a quick thank you for coming by. We've got a few people in the chat tonight. Got other people lurking. You can see it in the stats, but these folks said hi. So let's say goodbye to, of course, our man in Kuwait City, Jelly Duck 100, Ahmed. Good to see you here, man. We also have Sai Sahithi, and I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. Thanks very much for popping in. I thought your question was great. I agree with you, but I hope you stuck around long enough to hear Jim and I discussing that, because yeah, I agree with you, but maybe I don't. I don't know. And then, of course, it's D-Jock. D-Jock here. Oh, well, thanks, D-Jock. D-Jock here. Thank you very much for chiming in from Australia. Australia. Oh, good Lord. Terrible accent. Terrible accent impersonation.
So.
I should just not do that. Yes, that's right. It's our, we've got a few folks who take a look from Australia. Good to see you here. Welcome and hope you come back.
Yes.
Anything else, Jim?
I don't. I just wanted to say these lyrics. Till the earth, make a big roti, eat chilies and dance like this. I think I'm going to put that on my business card.
Why not? All right. Again, folks, next week we will be looking at Top Gun, and definitely, again, appreciate it if you liked and you subscribed. Of course, ring-a-ding that bell, because that's about the only way you'll know when you get notified when we put up a a new video.
I'm gonna do it in slow motion.
All right. On that note, let's just
prop comedy.
Let's all wave politely goodbye. Goodbye, everybody. Goodbye, everybody.